We are the learners and makers. After rejuvenating along the Southern California coast, we return to the desert for a rematch among the churro plants. I think a little bit of coast time gave us the feeling like we could conquer the desert again. It was a little later in the season, now into March. It's the perfect season to head to Joshua Tree National Park. We made it to Joshua Tree. This is a pretty fantastic view to pull up to. I'm really happy with where we're staying and everything. And we got here no problem, but it's a little bit breezy. It's not Mojave Desert breezy, but it is definitely a little colder than we would prefer.
However, in true St. Clair style, we decided we were not going to go to the northern part of the park where a lot of folks go. We went to the southern part of the park around Cottonwood Creek. It was easier for us to get to, just logistically, and it's just very different. It's one thing that we learned about this area is that you actually have kind of this confluence of the Mojave Desert in the north and the Colorado Desert in the south. And the Colorado is at a slightly lower elevation, Mojave is higher. So you get totally different rocks, totally different plants, depending on where you are in the park.
Yeah, the Cottonwood campground was not kind of what you envision, I think, when you envision Joshua Tree. But
for starters, there are no Joshua trees.
There are no Joshua trees, that's right. But it is a little bit more chill. So if you're looking for like a little less people, because it's the only campground and it is a little bit further away from everything else, it's a nice jumping off point to explore the park. We did go up north and go and see things like Skull Rock and just explore all around. But when we were driving up north, one of our favorite things, I think, was the Cholla Cactus Garden.
Yeah, being able to drive from the southern to the northern part of the park, you go on a road that you might not be on otherwise if you're just staying in the northern area. So there, yeah, the Cholla Cactus, you just suddenly get this random area full of little cacti called teddy bears.
One of the things that we have continued to love and be surprised about when visiting the desert is the diversity and the amount of plant life. You kind of think of it as just being rocks and barren, and when you see photos of it, you see video of it, it kind of looks that way because everything is kind of a similar color and it all blends a little bit, but you actually, when you get there, you realize that as you're walking along, there are so many different type of cacti and shrubs and various birds and everything. I mean, it just was a lot.
And then there are the things that just completely throw you for a loop that you do not expect, did not know about, and look like no other plant you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just after the Cholla Cactus Gardens, there's this little area called the Ocotillo Patch. Now, we had no idea what the Ocotillo was. It wasn't something we looked into, had never heard of it, and oh my gosh.
It became our favorite thing. I mean, at least you're my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It is a very unique looking plant. Kind of looks like a cactus, kind of looks like it's Medusa. But we happened to be there when they were blooming, so that felt extra special.
Well, here's the thing about the Ocotillo. One, it is not a cactus. It's a deciduous plant. It looks kind of like a cactus, but no. it's all spiny and everything, but 2, I'm gonna say this. If I say it too loudly, there could be yelling. Personally, I think these things are what happens when someone looks at a churro and goes, you know what? That'd be a really cool plant. They are totally churro plants. They're long and spindly and weird. They look like churros. In Ocotillo, I don't know, these things, I just love these things. These things are like, Ocotillo is what happens when the ground like wants to be a deer and dreams of antlers. I don't know, they're just so weird. Ocotillo do not leaf and flower based on the season. They leaf and flower based on precipitation. So we just happened to be there after some precipitation in the area that was enough for these to suddenly come alive with these lush little green leaves and all these beautiful like red and pink flowers. Now, this might happen like 5 or 6 times a year. And we actually were fortunate enough to be there for one of them.
If you've been there and you've seen them blooming, you should let us know in the comments below, because I would love to know or if you've been there and they weren't blooming. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're not that interesting when they're not blooming. I'm interested to see what other people think.
You guys remember what you have to do? Raise your right hand. Now when they're perfect, and just repeat after me. As a junior ranger.
As a junior ranger.
Of Joshua Tree National Park.
Of Joshua Tree National Park.
Promise to protect all the animals.
Promise to protect all the animals.
Including the phainopepilus.
Including the phainopepilus.
And the bighorn sheep.
And the bighorn sheep.
By never feeding them.
By never feeding them.
By always caring for them.
And by always caring for them.
Promise to protect the plants and trees.
Promise to protect the plants and trees.
Just like the Mojave yucca.
Just like the Mojave yucca.
By never picking them.
By never picking them.
Or stepping on them.
Or stepping on them.
On purpose.
On purpose.
I promise to share this.
I promise to share this.
With my friends and family.
With my friends and family.
Back home in Oregon.
Back home in Oregon.
All right, let's give them a round of applause.
We loved the Ocotillo, and I will say we learned about them in Joshua Tree, but then as we went down into the Anza-Borrego Desert, we drove through to get to our next camping spot, which was Agua Caliente. They are everywhere there. So there's like there's a small patch in Joshua Tree, but then if you go down into the Anza-Borrego Desert, they're extremely plentiful down there. So if you really want to see them, that actually is probably the place to go.
And the Anza-Borrego, this is actually California's largest state park. And the place has such an amazing variety of landscapes and plant life. But definitely, we're just driving mile after mile and seeing like Ocotillo as far as the eye could see.
The Anza-Borrego Desert is very like remote feeling, very not populated. If you want to go and just find a spot to camp by yourself, it's probably a great place. We were just south of that at a campground called Agua Caliente, which we chose because of the hot springs.
This also had the last sound we ever expected to hear in our desert adventures. But night after night, we did. To the thrall, not only of our children, but like every child in earshot would come running when they heard this. As you walked over, there'd be this line of fan palms. And there's like a little trickle of water flowing through.
It's from the hot springs, and there's like a little oasis feeling in this area from this fault line hot spring that they've pumped into pools, but there's some that's trickling out as well.
So every evening, sun starts to go down, and you would hear all these little ribbit.
So many tiny frogs. And so loud.
Frogs everywhere.
And the kids just were like loving capturing them, and oh, so fun, so fun. Like quintessential kid experience, right?
Yeah, it doesn't get more serendipitous than frogs in the desert.
Yeah. So after that, we head in back to the coast for a really special visit that we were highly anticipating. My grandfather lives in San Diego, and so we decided we would head in and spend a few days in San Diego. It was our chance to stay in a hotel room after 14 nights of camping, and we just, yeah, it was a lovely, lovely visit. The things that we did that we really enjoyed in San Diego, especially I would say taking the ferry from Coronado to San Diego, or whichever way is most convenient for you. We went from Coronado to, there's a couple areas in San Diego you can go to.
Yeah, I think it was around the Embarcadero waterfront
it's
area.
really close to where the
USS Midway Museum is there. You go past that.
So we decided to do it at sunset so we could see the sunset on the way over, and then on the way back we were looking at the San Diego skyline, which to me is like a sentimental thing of like being with my grandparents, and there are all these different names for the different buildings. Like this one is the chocolate building, and this is the one, the twins with their necklaces, and the flat screwdriver and the Phillips screwdriver, and all the different buildings and kind of their special names. So I got to kind of show Connor and Asher
this thing from your
these
childhood.
these are what the buildings are.
Yeah.
I think we've learned that we really love being on boats.
We do.
We love being on the water. We love being on boats.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that tops it all is my grandfather is a lawn bowler, and he was instrumental in getting the Bowling Green on Coronado Island. And so we got to go and roll some bowls with my grandfather and the kids. Connor was super into it. It's an easy enough sport that you can pick it up very quickly, but it's a difficult enough sport that it takes a lot of practice in order to be really good at it.
We've also been so aware of how fortunate the children are to get time with great-grandparents.
Then to be able to like do something that's actually active with their great-grandparents. It's not just like being in the same room with them.
Yeah, they're old enough to remember this experience, to have really enjoyed it, to have had this really special time with a relative that they know they're only going to get to see but so many times. Honestly, Disney, Joshua Tree, Ocotillo, that's all cool and everything, but kind of, I could almost say we just did this trip so the kids could roll some bowls with their great-grandfather. I'm really glad that we had already planned to go to like Joshua Tree and Agua Caliente. We already had reservations there. I'm especially glad that we had that and stuck with it, even though we had some pretty difficult experiences in the desert earlier in the trip. Desert always surprises us. It's so much lusher and more vibrant than I think we often give it credit for. And there is a stillness and serenity there that I think is really important to kind of take a little piece of that into yourself, in the midst of our times of life and everything. It recenters you. And I think that's a really important thing to hold on to.
Home is calling though.
But home is like 1,000 miles away.
So we still have 3 more campgrounds.
And a long drive.
And a very long drive before we get back home. So join us next time to see those 3, or check out our playlist with all of the spots that we stopped on this 6-week-long pop-up camper trip. If you want to see more of our daily adventures, you can follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Learners and Makers. Your turn.
Visit our website, learnersandmakers.com, for more in-depth travel guides and articles on family travel, accessible travel, and more.
Don't forget to hit subscribe and like and the
Ding
thumbs
that
up
bell.
button. Ding the bell. All of the things. If you want to see our future videos, things are only really getting started for us. So we have lots of exciting stuff coming up you're not going to want to miss. And then we'll see you next time.
Bye.